I joined back in 1974 as an official member, so that puts me at 41 years. I joined mainly because I was working as a consulting engineer in the water industry, and my clients were members. And to go to the conference and, market the membership, or market clients, I needed to be part of AWWA, and especially New York State section. I got started in the water industry, I guess, from being first joining O'Brien and Gear as an engineer out of college, and I predominantly did electrical work, electrical instrumentation and control on both water and sewer. But in doing it, predominantly I started doing a lot more water work, and I got into starting the design of pumping stations and treatment plants. But it had to do with working as a consultant in the field. I would describe it, I guess, as over the years as growing into the water industry, where I started doing just other design work and then grew into the water industry through, I guess, some of the involvement with the New York section and both nationally, marketing my services, my company services and my services, but also growing a need with regulations and other things to keep up, using the AWWA as a source for looking at the new regulations. And with that, my career, I got more and more involved with working with the current regulations, with the New York State Health Department, and with everybody. And with that, it helped me both as a consulting engineer and then as a deputy director of the Onondaga County Water Authority. Okay, I've stayed involved in the section up until now, up until my retirement, by being very active in various committees, and I've been on the board all the way up to chairman. I've also been involved nationally on several committees, and I plan to stay involved to maybe help out in some committees, hopefully not as chairman of the committees anymore, but also to get PE credits for my professional license. So I plan to attend the conferences, especially New York State conferences, and maybe the national. Depends on where the national is now that I'm retired. I started out on the registration committee. It was a separate committee rather than the activities committee in the beginning. And the reason, and I moved up to chairman of that committee, I wanted to meet more of the membership, and I got to know them not only as their name but their face, because everybody had to come through the registration desk. But back then we didn't have the help of an office and an executive director. We used just the treasurer, secretary treasurer, and his assistant, which was Chuck Seal and John Burrows. And I had to carry all the information and registration material to every conference. I would highly recommend they get in, students get into the water industry. There's many opportunities. My prime thrust has been engineering and getting into it and doing design and construction and operation, but there's other opportunities such as not marketing but customer services and other things get in there. I think the water industry, with the new regulations, is constantly changing. Also, there's a lot of water quality regulations. So from a chemistry standpoint, a person could do very well with a chemistry background to get into the industry as well, because they are constantly upgrading and reducing the goals for the contaminants in water. But also the design, from a design and operation standpoint, the facilities that were built back when I started need to be rebuilt or updated today. So there's opportunity there constantly for young people to get involved. I guess, you know, you go to their school and their average and what they took, I guess, and you tend to go there first, but that's not the thing I look at the most. I look at how did they get there? How did they do? Because sometimes a C or a B minus student has worked very hard to get through college, and is he willing to work what is needed to tackle a job and finish a job? If somebody went through college, you know, with a silver spoon, what did they have to do other than just attend classes? I guess if everybody passes, they got a base knowledge. They're competent in doing calculations, they're competent in evaluating things, but how hard are they going to work to finish a job? So I guess I look at that as much as I look at the student. And, you know, a couple times I've hired young students that actually were married and had a kid and had either a C plus or a B minus, and they became some of the better workers that I have ever had in my group. I think they're affecting change in the water industry by keeping every member up to date on the regulations and the changing of those regulations. I think they, especially the Central New York, has a good relationship with the New York State Health Department. And in fact, they've had, at every conference, they have a session dedicated to the Department of Health, and then having them update the people involved. They also, both the state and the national, keep us updated on what's going on in legislation in Congress and how we can support that legislation. I could hear about the problems out in California and how that one star out there was stealing water and fined because his farm of, I don't know, 50, 60 acres was going dry. We can only exist so many days without water. I think it has a very high value. Here in the Northeast, we've got plentiful water. I think it has value to support industry, which is very prime here in Central New York. And one thing we try to market is that we have water available to bring industry in. And that then can support the population in the area. If you can support industry, you can support your population growth, and you can bring in not only experts and students into the water industry, but students into industry and other things. In other words, jobs get created because of water availability, and good water quality is what we have here, especially in Central New York.